everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys are enjoying your week so far. I'm back at it with yet another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the up-and-coming conjunction between Venus and Chiron in the sign of Aries. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell button below, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Consider sharing with other Astro family, and definitely leave me a comment and let me know what healing techniques you're practicing during this transit, how it's faring for you, and what you're seeing in terms of some of the archetypal themes. I'm excited to be back. We're going to be exploring this, and there is lots of opening up that's kind of going on with this conjunction taking place on June the 1st, 2025. Now, some of you guys might be watching this a couple days early if you're a little bit more astro-sensitive, or if you happen to be ruled by Venus, so my Taurus and my Libra risings, as well as my Aries placements, anywhere between, I would say, 24 to 26 degrees. Definitely pay attention for those openings and opportunities to work through your wounds. Now, I believe that this is a powerful moment with this transit for healing, anything revolving around self-worth, identity, and much, much more. So in this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive and talking about some of the archetypal themes between Venus, Chiron, as well as Aries, how this might be playing out for you guys, and some tips and tricks to kind of work through some of the heartbreak or some of the healing that's going to be taking place this week. Now, obviously, we know that Venus has been in Aries for what seems like a very long time. So she's getting ready to kind of finish up her tour. In recent months, we saw a Venus retrograde taking place in the spring, and she kind of danced with Saturn and Neptune, dropped back into Pisces, went direct, was involved in some of the eclipse degrees. So now we're kind of through some of that energy, and she's wrapping up, like I said, her tour through Aries and meeting with Chiron. So we know that Venus deals with anything revolving around relationships, beauty, pleasure, finances. And in the sign of Aries, which is bold and a Mars-ruled sign, she is a bit debilitated. She's in detriment. So it's meaning that she's kind of outside of her comfort zone. Basically, what we're going to see with this, transit, I think, is it's going to enhance some of the themes of the challenges of Venus in this particular sign. But obviously, we know that we can kind of work with it. Venus transits can be about opening up to something and getting outside of our comfort zone. So I think Aries being a little bit more bold, impulsive, independent. Venus is going to be craving things like passion and excitement in relationships, maybe in money or any kind of financial pursuits. And this is a Venus placement that's really about chasing what lights you up, but it can also spark impulsive spending or some kind of fiery romantic clash. So when we see transits like this, it definitely pushes us to kind of balance desire with self-awareness. Now, Venus will be coming into conjunction with Chiron. And like I said, you guys might be feeling this a couple days early. The transit's basically going to last anytime between now and I would say about the 3rd of June. And then it's going to start to separate before Venus goes into the sign of Taurus, where she's more comfortable. But before she does, she will be making the conjunction to Chiron. And in astrology, a conjunction is like a fusion of two particular planetary energies. Now, Chiron is actually an asteroid. It's not a planet, but it's a very important asteroid. And we kind of see it play out in the collective as opening up to wounds, things that we need to be more aware of. Obviously, Chiron's been in Aries for some time, and the wounded healer here is really highlighting wounds around identity. Aries is the sign of self. It's also about where we're dealing with self-worth matters, assertiveness, and maybe even feeling like the odd man out. Now, Chiron is all about mending the parts of us that feel like we're not enough, and maybe struggling to stand tall and be confident and, kind of be our best selves. And I think with this transit with Venus and Chiron meeting here, it's really a cosmic invitation to heal the relationship that we have with ourselves. Now, depending on the placement of where it is in your chart, it's going to give you a little bit more context, but I think that it's about healing our relationship also with love, with values, and anything that's connected to our own personal inner spark, because we're blending the two themes of Chiron as well as Venus. The conjunction will be taking place around 25 degrees of Aries. So like I said, 24, 25, 26 degrees of Aries placements. Pay special attention because this is going to be a little bit more prominent for you. And the conjunction is going to be happening, like I said, on the 1st, and it'll be at 25 degrees. So if you follow degree theory, this is going to really supercharge the energy of Aries. 25s do correlate to Aries, Mars energy. So it's going to add an extra layer of courage, initiative, as well as like an unapologetic individual kind of like take when it comes to matters of love and resources. But with Venus debilitated here, we're going to find that we might be grappling with feelings of unworthiness in love, maybe in finances, maybe we're kind of hurting for something or someone. And Chiron's healing energy will amplify this particular degree, really pushing us and urging us to kind of confront some of these insecurities and reclaim our personal power. Now, I'd like to read to you guys the Sabian symbol for 26 degrees of Aries, just to give us a little bit more context to see how this is going to be playing out. And I like to round up when I use the conjunctions, because you guys can see it's 25 degrees and change. So we're going to read 26 degrees, which is a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold. The keyword is equipment. The theme is dynamo. The symbol speaks to emotional talent and self-confidence. The image of a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold illustrates the concept of resistance of the Renaissance man, or the man for all seasons. The challenge in the symbol is learning when and where to set limits on the demands of others and how to avoid spreading the self too thin or trying to handle too many things at once. There is an inclination indicated here to try to be all things with all people and to grow restless or bored when things slow down to a lull. There may also be a tendency to overestimate how much can be handled at one time and to overburden the self with too many responsibilities or projects. The positive, at its highest, the symbol represents an extraordinary competency and talent, independence, and an insatiable desire to explore and develop all of the self's potential. Watch for obsessive compulsive behavior and flights of fancy, or an inability to sit quiet and alone in a room and relax. The accent is on excess and abundance. The indication here is that whatever the day brings, there will be plenty of it, perhaps too much. Activity is the byword. Opportunity. Your greatest advantage lies in capitalizing on your high levels of competency. Your talents and skills should be at their peak today, so stay focused on your projects and goals. Guard against letting others unload their problems or responsibilities on you. Avoid overthinking or taking on more than you can handle. Learn to say no gracefully but firmly. Stepping stones are abundance, excess, prosperity, richness, fruitfulness, affluence, competence, talent, versatility, success, fortune, and blessings. But we've all heard the phrase, too much of a good thing, right? I wonder if it could be that. Or maybe feeling like overwhelmed. But when I think about this Sabian symbol, I think it's really about being overwhelmed with potential, right? Potential romantic opportunities, potential healing opportunities, being kind of overwhelmed with all of the responsibilities, which in reality are actually blessings. And I think that's really the kind of connection of this particular Sabian symbol. We might feel like there's maybe, an abundance in love, creativity, or personal growth, but also the challenge of focusing on what truly aligns with our authentic self. It's good, but do I want it? Is it for me? Am I open to receiving some of these things that are coming in? I think overall it's like a reminder to prioritize really what resonates rather than chasing every single opportunity. Now, I want to unpack the key aspects of this transit other than the conjunction, because there's a lot of other things that are kind of going on, which I actually consider to be extremely beneficial and very helpful for what can be a challenging transit for some people. I think the big one for me is that whenever we're looking at what's going on with, Chiron, Venus, Neptune, Saturn, obviously pretty hefty, kind of stellium of planets that are in the skies in the area of Aries in our chart, we're looking at Mars, because Mars is the dispositor and the ruler of Aries. So if there's something else going on with Mars by conjunction, square, opposition, likely it's also going to be kind of coloring the transit and giving us more insight as to how it may manifest. Nothing but good Mars things, right? So I think the first thing that really caught my eye is that on June the 1st, The conjunction is going to be happening in the afternoon. So I'm Central Time. So it's going to be somewhere around 2:45 Central Time, 3:45 Eastern, or it's going to be closer to 12:45 Pacific. Adjust your time zones, but trust me, you guys are going to feel it all day. We look at Mars, and Mars is in conjunction with the moon in Leo. All right. So fire to fire means that we are going to see a trine between Venus and Mars, which has been kind of playing out for like the last week or so. Very passionate dynamic. Honestly, I've seen it materialize as a lot more drama, but some of you guys really like this energy. It can be that, relationships or financial things are kind of heating up very quickly. And the moon is going to represent where we're kind of at on an emotional level. So moon in Leo transit, even if it's unexpected, is going to materialize as it being creative, dramatic, romantic. It's about kind of being on stage and being confident. So the pros of, I think, of the moon and Mars can mean that we are very emotional, we are very romantic, we're very forward, we're going after what we want. Those trines that we're going to see to Venus is going to be kind of activating, our self-awareness. It's going to be also really in tune with our pleasure, our needs, and what we're attracted to. It's also going to amplify themes of self-love. And then the trines to Chiron are going to be saying that we can be healing through art, dance, creativity, and play. However, the moon-Mars conjunction for other people can materialize as something very different. It can mean that we're a little emotionally hasty. We can be having some blow-ups. We can be very kind of egocentric, very self-focused, very much focused on what our desires and passions are. And sometimes we have tunnel vision when we have that conjunction. People can also be a little bit more emotionally on edge. We can see that obviously Leo is a fixed sign, so it's going to be a little reluctant to change. So the positive is passionate, right? The challenge, I think, and the negative could be that we're kind of blowing things out of proportion, or maybe we're just a little bit too overly self-focused. And when you're dealing with fire signs, especially Aries and Leo, that's a huge theme. But the trine is a Jupiter energy. So when we see the trine between the moon and Mars to the Venus Chiron conjunction, it brings this very fiery, heart-centered kind of energy. Obviously, the moon rules emotions and Mars deals with drive and action. So when they come together, we're going to see lots of passionate self-expression, bold moves in love and finance. And I feel like it's just really important to stay grounded to avoid some of the flair for drama. Dance, create, play, make art. Those types of things are going to be really wonderful, especially by yourself. If you have a hobby or something that you can do that can be really self-expressive and it can be therapeutic. Now, we're also going to see that Venus and Chiron are still in a sextile to Jupiter. Now, we're losing that sextile because Jupiter is at 28, getting ready to go into Cancer. Obviously, the conjunction is at 25, but it's within a 3-degree orb in terms of the sextile. So we're receiving some of the yummy goodness that can be kind of coming from Jupiter in Gemini. We know that Jupiter in Gemini really represents expansion and communication, writing, learning, traveling. So communication can aid kind of getting some of this stuff out, and it can kind of help us cut through maybe some of the drama and be able to better express ourselves and learn from one another. Now, this is also a transit with Jupiter and Gemini that's really about sparking curiosity, not just communication. So it's perfect for learning or networking or sharing your story with other people to heal old wounds. So you could write a letter, you could create a blog, create content, talk about, some of your healing journey, maybe on your socials, and it could be an amazing outlet to kind of work with some of the creative and communicative energy that the sextile is going to bring. I think that this is also really about encouraging us to kind of speak our truth, because Jupiter overall deals with truth. It can mean that, things we've been afraid to kind of admit to ourselves or other people, finally telling the truth about what's kind of been on our mind and giving it a little bit of a dramatic or creative flair. Obviously, Jupiter is ruled by Mercury, which is very close to the sun. So this is going to be kind of happening after we saw the Cazimi, but right after the Cazimi, we're seeing that we're going through the growing phase after that kind of new moon energy as well. So Mercury and the sun moving side by side, technically in a sextile to this, does make me feel like any written email, meetings, communication, anything that we kind of text could also be something that could be very passionate and, very creative. I like the idea for, using this transit as a creative writing day or a networking day, or just kind of connecting and communicating and telling people what we love about them, right? Kind of spreading some of that goodness where we can be helping heal wounds in other people who have been physically kind of, down and out, emotionally down and out. Maybe they're feeling a little insecure, and we can really work with that Jupiter energy to be able to boost other people up, give them compliments, and also give them praise. So that's something else that you can kind of take from that particular sextile. Obviously, there's other things going on in the skies. We do see Neptune and Saturn, continue in the sign of Aries. They are in conjunction, not exact, but they're going to be moving very closely side by side for the next several months. I think that this is a continuation of kind of really reevaluating how we see ourselves. Aries is the self. Saturn can be about our boundaries. It can be about aging. It can be connected to certain timelines that we have for ourselves, certain goals that we have for ourselves. And that conjunction to Neptune, there could be a lot of people who are not seeing themselves very clearly, or they're unsure, or they're lacking confidence, which is also kind of playing into some of the Venus Chiron themes, where some people might feel they're an outsider, they're rejected, they're different, they're not good enough, they're not pretty enough. And that's going to give us the opportunity, through working with communication and also working and being creative and tapping into our talents, to show the world how amazing we are. Now, I think that because Saturn is really going to be about restriction, Neptune's going to be dealing with illusions, this conjunction is helping us over the next year or so really build a new foundation for our identity. And in order to do that, we have to kind of dissolve the illusions about who we thought we were. Which is so far the Saturn and Aries transit. Not a fan personally, but I kind of expected that this was going to be, a lot of lessons coming very fast that we did not see coming, and things that were going to be also about kind of readjusting our perspective when it comes to who we are in contrast to other people. Aries is me, and then, Venus Libra energy is who are we together. So this can also be a day that can kind of be showing you, is there something I need to work on? Is there something I need to heal or perfect in some way? And how can I love all of my imperfections and my flaws and accept myself the way that I am? And in doing so, can get in better relationship with myself, Venus and Aries, and also find that I can have a little bit more confidence and charisma so I can go out there and connect, collaborate, or meet like-minded people. Now, here's where things get kind of juicy, guys. And this is not a particular planetary influence I talk about very often. There was a podcast that I was listening to recently on Planet Waves. I don't know if you guys have listened to his stuff, but amazing astrologer. Go and listen to his recent thing that he did on, I'm trying to think of the Chiron Aries conjunction. And he talks about how the last time we had Chiron conjunct Aries, in Aries, everything that was kind of going on in the late 60s and the early 70s, the whole storyline of what was going on with, do your thing, right? Very Aries, was kind of coming up in society. This is the first time since then that we're seeing Chiron coming back in a conjunction with Aries. Aries is dancing, it's not on my chart, but it's dancing right around these same particular degrees. Aries moves very slowly. In my opinion, she's very similar to Pluto. And this is going to be a more kind of feminine Plutonian energy. Everybody who's alive right now has Eris and Aries, by the way. You just have to go and look at what degree, but she moves so incredibly slow that you're going to have it, especially if you have any Aries placements, it may be conjunct that, or you may be going through an Aries transit at the same time. Anyway, so it's not just Venus, right? Anything connected to love, romance, resources, or beauty. Chiron, anything connected to kind of healing. But we've got Eris in the mix. And in Greek mythology, Eris is the goddess of discord and strife, right? And she's famously kind of known for sparking the Trojan War by tossing a golden apple inscribed to the fairest amongst a bunch of gods and goddesses, creating a bunch of drama with several goddesses that were involved. So Eris in astrology, she represents rebellion, and she's also directly connected to truth-telling and disrupting the status quo. So in Aries, obviously, this is like a very fierce warrior energy that's more masculine, and this is a more feminine kind of archetypal theme. So we're going to see this kind of conjunction taking place where it's going to be really about being unafraid to confront injustice or chaos, like being willing to kind of stir the pot a little bit and create some drama if drama needs to be kind of created. So I think with Venus and Chiron being in conjunction to Aries, it's almost like a powder keg, for transformation, and it can definitely bring up some kind of rather explosive situations in some of our relationships or in some of our lives. Now, this alignment obviously is going to really bring up any buried anger, unresolved conflicts, or feelings of being undervalued, especially in relationships or finances. So the silver lining here is, yes, we may see over the next couple of days some kind of conflict, some discord, something that pops up, but Venus is kind of right there to say, okay, let's squash it, let's heal it, let's work through this. What do we need to do? How can we add a little bit more love? How can we add a little bit more TLC or some sugar to really work through some of these issues? So do not stray away from some of the conflict. See the conflict as an opportunity to be like, hey, this is what's going on. It can be blown out of proportion, but let's fix it. And that's on a personal or on a, kind of like one-on-one relationship level. Now, I do think that's something I have noticed personally with Aries transits, especially as I've seen it coming into kind of contact with some of my planets. It's amplified the need to really fight for your worth. And it's not always pretty, right? But that definitely comes up. And what I have also noticed is that it has a tendency to really disrupt toxic patterns. And it's made me super aware of, hey, this is going on. Don't like this. This is what we need to deal with, blah, blah, blah. And it's about really embracing in that moment, like your truth and being authentic in a way where you're not willing to shy away from some of the issues that are coming up, and you're not going to sweep it under the rug either. Now, historically, Aries transits have coincided with major periods of social upheaval as well as personal reckonings. So I do think that this conjunction is really a call to more or less kind of face what's been ignored in society or in terms of Venus-related topics, money issues, money scandals, anything connected with maybe women's rights matters, anything connected to fertility, all of that stuff. And especially topics and themes of things that have been ignored, swept under the rug, because it's going to be about some of those kind of Venus archetypes reclaiming their power with some kind of unapologetic courage or female rage. Now, I think to heal and kind of work through this transit, the good news is it'll be a quick one and you have lots of support in the skies. So it's not just going to be something explosive and it's like, boom, it's over. I think for many people, it might be you're healing through a physical, thing that's going on. Aries can be inflammation, the face, anything with rashes, fevers, being sick, being wounded. And we may have an experience where a partner takes care of us, or, a friend at work, stops by to bring us, some food if we're sick, or somebody's willing to kind of pick up our medicine and we're like, wow, they really do love me, and it can really heal that issue of feeling like you're not seen, you're not worthy, you're not good enough. For others, it could be a moment where you see something exposed in a relationship and you're like, okay, this is not working. Are we going to talk about it and love each other enough to be able to work through it? Or, is this so toxic or so detrimental on a personal level that you have to go your separate ways? So you have to look at the other aspects it's making in your chart. You have to look at, is it making conjunctions, oppositions? And obviously, if you're in a Venus annual perfection year, it might be a little bit more prominent. But I would say to navigate and heal this, know that the conjunction between these three particular bodies is really a potent opportunity to heal wounds around love. So whether you're finally grieving and getting over a heartbreak or a loss, and now you realize, hey, you know what, I'm going to get back out there, that can be the Venus Chiron effect. If you are dealing with some kind of financial struggle or some kind of issue in regards to resources, and it's really weighing on you, and you're also feeling like, man, I'm not good enough, you can have a breakthrough. But it's also connected to pleasure. It's connected to self-worth. And I feel like in matters of love specifically, I would use this transit to be very, very honest about what your needs are in relationships, what you do and what you don't like, how you want to be loved, how you show love. Start having conversations with your partners about your love language. I think that would be wonderful with some of the sextiles to Jupiter, so we could better understand, how we kind of show up in relationships and give and take. And we can also learn how to better love other people and let other people know what we need to be loved. Now, this might mean that we're also healing old heartbreaks by owning our worth and doing it without needing any kind of external validation and being cool and good enough to kind of stand on our own 2 feet. In a financial situation, some of you guys might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm reflecting on some impulsive spending or some scarcity mindsets. And maybe you're finding that this is the opportunity where you're opening up and kind of aligning your financial choices with your truer values. In regards to pleasure, this can be about rediscovering joy without guilt. And I really recommend really honing in on that one, especially with, all these conjunctions in Leo, trining Venus and Chiron. It can be like learning how to have playtime, being silly, being creative, being romantic, and just learning how to kind of be in the moment. And I feel like this is also about encouraging unapologetic self-expression. Like, yes, some of you guys are going to feel like you're being a lot with that Moon-Mars conjunction, but that just might be who you are. And it might be that's something that you need to kind of express and get out. But most importantly, I would say, because Aries is the self, use this Chiron energy to face insecurities about your identity. Journaling, meditation, seeking therapy to address old wounds, especially because Chiron is connected to healing, and it could be things that are about like psychic healing and other kind of, spiritual kind of modalities when it comes to healing. It could be really wonderful as well. In particular, playing music, writing music, maybe connecting with an artist or an album that really makes you feel like you're able to kind of heal and process something. Making art, right, I think is something else that I would really kind of consider doing, because all of these can be a wonderful outlet with some of the trines to Leo. Now, for rituals, honestly, I feel like with the Aries transits, I have found quick, simple, in the moment, or first thing in the morning is my kind of go-to. And I would recommend working with affirmations. And with Aries, you want to use the I am phrase. So I am worthy of love and abundance, right? That's an easy one. Maybe you decide you want to try some kind of like fire-based ritual meditation, like gazing at a candle, to kind of connect with that energy and imagine that you're kind of purging and purifying any insecurities that you have away and releasing maybe what you feel like has been kind of dimming your spark. But definitely warm colors, warm spices, anything connecting to, physical action. All of these things can really be beneficial for helping heal. Beauty stuff too. I could see this as like beauty related things that are connected to peels and lasers and anything connected to anti-aging and red lights or saunas. That could be an excellent use for that also. Now, I'm going to give you guys some themes, predictions, and tips for each one of the 12 rising signs. As a reminder, if you are a Taurus or a Libra, sun, moon, or rising, this might be a little bit more impactful for you as Venus is directly connected to your chart. And my Aries, sun, moon, and risings, in particular, Aries planetary placements, anywhere between, I would say, 24 and 26 degrees is going to be the hot zone for the conjunction taking place on June the 1st. Now, I am a Western astrologer. That is what I practice. I do not practice Vedic. And I like to use the whole sign system when I am talking to you guys about what's going on with some of the transits in the sky. So definitely listen for your whole rising sign first. That's going to tell you exactly which house this transit is taking place in. And that's where you have the opportunity to kind of heal, open up to something, work through an insecurity or a wound. Watch for the opportunity to do that with this transit. And also take into consideration which houses are ruled by Venus in your chart, Taurus and Libra. There is a connection there. And then secondly, you can listen to your sun sign. It may connect or correlate to something you're going through kind of personally, anything in regards to maybe your career, creative projects, or just your own personal inner needs. So especially since we are going to see during this transit that there is going to be some kind of Leo stuff going on, highly recommend listening to your sun sign. Definitely listen to your moon sign if you need more of a reflection emotionally on what's taking place. Likely you're going to see something that's going to be similar with all three. All right, so let me get started first with my Aries and my Aries risings. Sorry, guys, I'm like all over the place right now. I'm trying to make sure I can kind of get it right where I want it with some of the transits. So we're going to start first with Aries and Aries rising. Obviously, this is going to be significant for you guys because it's taking place in your sign. So what you need to know about the Venus-Chiron conjunction is that it is taking place in your first house, okay? We know that the first house is the house of self. Whether that's what you wear, your body, your face, your morning routine, it is very personal for you. And Venus is directly connected to your self-esteem, your security, your finances, right? The things you own, possess, also your talents, anything connected to your identity and self-worth. And Venus is also directly tied to your 7th house, which is about relationships, one-on-one partnerships. This could be allies, business partners, clients, spouses, therapists, anything like that. So off the bat, having Venus in the 1st house is pretty great for your appearance. But when it comes in conjunction with Chiron, it doesn't really matter how great you look. You may have a difficult time seeing yourself clearly right now. With Saturn in your 1st house, a little bit more sober experience, a little bit more serious, definitely feeling a little unsure, or you're going through like a readjustment period where you're trying to figure out who you are when it comes to your appearance or your career, your personal goals. Neptune's there as well. So it's definitely kind of having you a little, am I seeing myself so clearly? Do I look okay? And Venus being in conjunction to Chiron quite literally means you could bring people in that could heal you. Healing a wound, like a healthcare practitioner or a healer, somebody who pays you a compliment that, lights you up and makes you kind of feel like, okay, maybe I am doing well, and helps you really reinforce some of that much needed, self-assuring, self-assuring beliefs that you might feel like you're lacking, right? So what you want to focus on is an identity reset. And maybe it means that you're healing an old wound around self-acceptance or self-worth, and it's kind of coming up during this conjunction. I like the fact that you're going to see trines to the Leo moon in your 5th house, which is really going to boost your confidence. I think as a self-care tip during this transit, I would say I would definitely work with a mirror, because Venus is connected to your 7th house, and it's about what is being reflected back to you. It can be your shadow self. It can also just be feeling like you're having a back and forth with another person in the mirror. Cue that song. And I want you guys to look at yourselves in the mirror, and I want you to say an affirmation. So get up first thing in the morning. I love myself. I am beautiful. I am healthy. I am worthy. Something like that, right? And it needs to be like something that you would want a partner to say back to you. Some kind of compliment or something that is going to make you feel good enough. You need to have that conversation with yourself in the mirror. And I think that will kind of help you work through some of the things that come up, and possibly, right, be able to write about it, talk about it, share about it with some of the aspects that are going on in your 3rd house. All right, good luck. I love that trine to Mars in your 5th house. Get dramatic about it. We got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? How's it going? Obviously, you're ruled by Venus. So good news, whatever's going on, Taurus, this is quite private, right? So whatever you're working on healing, whatever insecurities, emotional, spiritual, physical things that you're healing, it's very much going to be under wraps. Nobody's going to really see that it's going on. However, it is going on, and you know in your heart of hearts and in your soul that there is something that is bothering you right now. I say that because Venus is obviously debilitated, so that's going to kind of put you in a funk, and it's going to be in your 12th house. So it is going to represent basically there is something going on subconsciously. Venus is directly tied to your 6th house of, working through problems, challenges, and issues with others, problems with your health, your routine, coworkers, pets, anything like that. And when your natal planet or your ruling planet goes through the 12th, it means that you're taking a step back, right? So, maybe what you'll find is going to be kind of surfacing during this time is like hidden wounds about love or value begin to emerge. And it could be in a subconscious state, like in your dreams. It could be when you're meditating. It could be when you're alone by yourself and you're just thinking about things and you're working through something. And I feel like for you, if it's not been a wound that you're aware of, it can make you aware of it. On the other hand, the 12th house could mean that you're feeling like, hey, I need a little bit more time to meditate, pray, rest, recuperate. I'm literally healing a wound. I've been down sick. I'm dealing with allergies, or I've got migraines, something like that that's going on. And you just need a little bit more TLC. And certainly the 12th house can be things like foreign lands, hospitals, healing centers, temples, spiritual places. And I would really recommend doing something that's going to be about healing some of the emotional subconscious things that are going on that is also tied to your health and your habits, how you're eating, how you're working, your productivity, that kind of stuff. Positive, let's talk positive, the trine that you're going to see to the moon as well as Mars. So Mars rules your relationships. It's also directly connected to your subconscious. The moon Mars might be kind of stirring up things that are family related, home related, domestic stuff, emotions and things kind of connected to the past. And now you're ready to release them. So for you guys, I think this will definitely spark some creative breakthroughs. I think that is a self-care tip for Taurus risings. I would definitely be hitting the saunas. I would definitely be meditating. I would also be really focusing on, having some alone time. So that way you can meditate and focus on releasing some of these subconscious fears that are kind of popping up for you. What is it about? Work, right? Career stuff. It could be connected to your health and your habits, your home, but it's time to really let something go. Definitely consider using a fire related ritual, or maybe, burning something and like releasing it into the universe, especially with Venus in the 12th house. It's like you're going to allow something to finally be completed so you can move forward. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Venus Chiron conjunction in Aries in your natal 11th house. Now, the 11th house deals with your community. This is your friends. This is your audience. This is also your kind of groups that you participate online with, anything like that. And it's also revolving around some of your goals and some of your wishes. And Venus deals with your 5th house of children, romance, creativity, and self-expression, as well as the 12th house, which is going to be about what's hidden and subconscious, or things that are kind of behind the scenes, hidden enemies as well. So with Venus conjuncting Chiron in your 11th house, you're really healing wounds revolving around belonging or feeling maybe misunderstood. So there can be this sense of you going, well, I feel like the odd man out, or I wasn't invited to the party, or I went to hang out with my friends and something was off, or there was some, kind of like feeling slighted. And you have the opportunity to kind of heal or work through that issue. Equally, you could have a friend or a close ally, somebody who's kind of going through something. Could be a younger person, it could be, a high school friend. It could also be talking to your friends and receiving some kind of support maybe, or validation or comfort in regards to something going on with a child or a romantic partner, maybe even a creative project. And people are able to help boost your confidence and give you a little bit more support. I'm really loving the sextile to Jupiter in your 1st house. I definitely feel like that's amplifying, getting feedback, getting constructive criticism. People who are also going to be helping you feel a little bit more positive and optimistic. You're going to have to really lean into your communication skills to hash out any potential issues that could come up in a social dynamic. However, that trine that you're going to see to the Leo moon in your 3rd house with Mars is giving you even more of a communication boost. And we know that you're like a major communicator. So this will actually help fuel some kind of group dynamic and activity. So maybe in some way, shape, or form, if you have been feeling a little disjointed in your friend groups, or somebody has been kind of feeling like the oddball, maybe it's you're able to organize some kind of get together, some kind of travel opportunity, or put out like a group text to smooth everything over. And I think it could really bring about lots of opportunity to get creative with other people. Highly, highly recommend Gemini to journal about what's going on, because I think that with the trines to the 3rd house, the sextiles to Jupiter in your 1st house, any ideas that you can get written down on paper can be really helpful. Could also be about getting involved in a local community project and really, taking one step at a time to better connect with other people. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's up, Cancer? You're going to be doing the Venus Chiron conjunction in Aries in your natal 10th house. Now, the 10th house, obviously, by sign squares you. So this represents something that is a more challenging energy. It's out there, right? It's public. It's your career and your reputation. So anything that's kind of going on is going to be very visible. So just kind of putting that out there. Now, one thing I really like about this transit is that it is making direct trines to the moon, and the moon is your chart ruler. So you're going to see an opportunity to kind of heal an insecurity that you have at work, a relationship with somebody at work. Maybe you are trying to find a job. Maybe you're trying to smooth over, an issue that you had with a boss. Maybe there's an opportunity for a new partnership to emerge. And the trines that you're going to be seeing to Mars in your 2nd house is amplifying money-making opportunities, amplifying feeling secure, feeling confident in your skills and how you apply them at work. And also the trine that you're going to be seeing to the moon is really saying that it can kind of help you work out of old patterns and habits when it comes to how you work or how you present yourself in a public setting. Now, Venus is connected directly to your home, family, property, and the past, as well as your friends, allies, groups, and your goals. So I'm kind of predicting for Cancer and Cancer risings that there could be a moment where you're reassessing your public image, right? Where you're like, do I change my image on LinkedIn? Do I take professional headshot photos? Is it time for me to buy, a new suit or a new wardrobe? What do I need to do? What do I need to kind of pull out of the back of my closet? Or what do I need to better or improve so it will help me do business better, or so I'm more likely to get hired, or so I'm taken seriously? So I think that that's what's going to be kind of popping up for you guys. I do think that this is really, with some of the trines to the second house, about, working on your worth and whether or not you're feeling like you're being kind of adequately paid or compensated for the work that you're doing. Now, that trine is also about bold leadership. So this is about taking center stage, dropping any fears of kind of managing or being kind of the face of an operation or a business, and just showing up. Now, for your self-care tip, I really recommend creating a vision board. And I say that because you're going to see sextiles to planets that are going to be in Gemini in your 12th house, where we're focusing on the vision, what we're praying for, what we're hoping for. And obviously, you're in a more kind of introspective time with all these planets in the 12th house, where you would rather be behind the scenes, you'd be alone or kind of hidden, but you're being thrust into the public sphere. And if you're able to maybe create a background for your computer at work, or your lock screen on your phone or your tablet, that's about showing up, being in charge, being confident, being like the head honcho, it's going to subconsciously get you on board and get you ready to take on some of these transits that are happening in your 10th house. Good luck, Cancer. All right, we got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? You're going to be doing Venus conjunct Chiron and Aries in your natal 9th house, and it will be trining Mars and the moon in your first. So I actually think you're going to like this transit. It's going to be interesting how this manifests for you with Venus conjunct Chiron in the 9th house, which is obviously the house of expansion. And this could be expanding or healing your beliefs, especially ones that limit your growth. Healing issues in regards to a legal matter. It could be in regards to, meeting or working with a mentor or a teacher, taking courses or lessons or training or certification on healing. That could be something else that's coming up as well. Or healing trips, anything that's therapeutic in regards to travel or education. Now, Venus deals with your career and your reputation, your professional status. It also has an association with your 3rd house of communication, contract, short distance trips, siblings, and the mind. So my interpretation of this transit is that really there is a huge amplification coming from the moon and Mars. And it's been my experience when the moon and Mars meet in the 1st house that I'm just like, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing it right now. And that's because the 1st house has to be jumping into something. It has to take some kind of action. Mars is going to be about teaching, training, learning, or traveling. And then the moon is going to be your subconscious desires. So I think some Leo and Leo risings are going to be like, that's it. I'm booking a trip to Mexico. Like, I'm going away. I'm doing this retreat, or I just need to be in a cabin in the woods. I need to go alone. I need to go back to school. I need to travel. I need to relocate. Something's going to come up where you're going to be like, that's exactly what I need to do before I kind of get my head back in the game when it comes to figuring out work or, whatever. And it may be some kind of pursuit of adventure that you're kind of going on that will heal you on a soul level. I think that the Mars trine makes you very magnetic. I think that if you're in a healing or teaching type of field, it might be that you're jumping in and you're going to be helping educate somebody or working with somebody or maybe training somebody. And I think as a self-care tip, I would really focus on, during this time, maybe reading an inspiring book or maybe taking a short trip or something that can broaden your perspective, working with a healing mentor, or maybe doing some kind of teaching or training exercises, especially with some of these sextiles that you're going to be seeing to your chart ruler in the 11th. Like, it wants you to be a part of a group, traveling with friends, joining a healing group, joining a group online, teaching or learning. These are going to be the things that are going to kind of make you open up the most. Good luck, Leo. We have Virgo and Virgo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Venus-Chiron conjunction in the sign of Aries in your natal 8th house. Now, for you guys, obviously, the 8th house is a house that in conjuncts or quincunxes you, so it's going to be a little bit harder to see. And the trines that are kind of setting up are happening from your 8th to your 12th. So this is more, emotions in action, events and things that take place that are about finalizing or wrapping things up. The 8th house is about intimacy, vulnerability, anything in regards to sexual intimacy, working through fears or phobias, connections to grief, healing on a very deep, personal, kind of private level, and confronting fears, I think, revolving around shared assets, or it can be about letting things go or transforming things in some way. Now, Venus is connected to your money, physical possessions, and your self-esteem or security. It's also connected to your 9th house of foreign travel, education, your belief system, anything kind of connected to also the bigger picture of life. So watching any planet go through the 8th house, there's going to be some significant, profound change. And I would just say, like, Saturn and Neptune being there is a lot of like, now you're working through, what have I been avoiding? What have I not wanting to be taken care of? What needs to be paid? What needs to be given to me? What is this kind of karmic give and take that I'm doing with another person? It could be financially, it could be emotionally, it could be, especially, personally with one-on-one relationships. But how that ties to kind of Venus, I would say that this is really a time where you're being asked to transform your resources. How can you take something that you have and grow it? And are you willing to invest it? Are you willing to share it? Are you willing to give something back to somebody? Is there going to be some kind of an exchange going on? Definitely good for healing and anything psychological. And with some of the trines that you're going to be seeing taking place to Mars and the moon in your 12th house, it makes me feel like it's at least adding passion, right? So this could be really great for working through maybe anything that you've been afraid to release, anything that you feel like is dead and old and needs to kind of go. Maybe it's something that happens while you're dreaming or while you're sleeping, or maybe you feel like it's just something that's out of your control and you're like, I just have to kind of breathe and work through it. I would definitely be practicing some kind of breath work or, any kind of emotional hacks that you have for releasing emotional blocks. Especially if you're going to be having any intimate conversations or be talking anything about what's owed to you, or, what you have to give back to somebody else, or maybe working through what you're afraid of kind of dealing with, because the 8th house, it wants to deal with trauma head on, Aries, and there is a little bit of resistance with Saturn and Neptune being there right now. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Virgo, be brave, be brave, be brave. We've got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? Obviously, Venus rules your chart, so wherever Venus goes is where you are, and Venus has been hanging out in your 7th house where it's been having eclipses and retrogrades and all that stuff. So she's finishing up her tour in the 7th house, and honestly, Venus likes being in that house. I just think that it's the sign that it's in is a little tricky. And Venus does not just rule you and your physical body. It also has connections to your 8th house of Taurus, which is about change, transformation, psychological things, and vulnerability. So you may want to think about what has been going on. What has been going on while Venus was going back and forth over Saturn and Neptune, which at first was in your 6th house, and then on the back end of the retrograde, it then came into conjunction with Saturn and Neptune and stuff as it was going into Aries. What restarts have been kind of going on in relationships, whether it's with a romantic partner, a business partner, a client, a therapist. Venus Chiron in the 7th house is a really good time to work with a therapist or to work with an astrologer. It can also represent a time, I think, where, you're looking at partnerships in general. So it's going to be general. I don't know if you're single and you're dealing with wounds revolving around vulnerability, or if you're in a relationship and there are some issues coming up, or you've got a situation where a partner's going through like a healing, situation, but any of those things can apply. What I know is that this is about healing partnership wounds. And whether or not being in certain relationships and having partnerships is actually creating problems and like the pain of staying or leaving, or it can be bringing up issues revolving around, well, I've been hurt before. I don't know if I want to put myself out there. And truth be told, the Venus-Chiron connection can bring somebody in who can help fix a relationship. So the positive here is that with some of the trines that are happening to Mars as well as the moon in the 11th house, is it's trining the ruler of your 7th house in the 11th. So it may not necessarily be just about healing romantic relationship wounds. There's opportunities to heal issues with friends, to relate to other people, to get feedback from other people about this, things that they're going through, and you could talk to them, and it can bring some warmth, it can bring some support, as well as a little bit of drama. I think that for this particular transit, as a self-care tip, I would consider writing a letter to a partner. I think with the sextile to Jupiter, is it's really saying that you have the opportunity to kind of communicate and get the point across in a way where if you feel like you can't do it with words, you can do it with writing. It could also mean that traveling could be therapeutic as well, or that you're learning something about relationships as a whole. And this is really about expressing some of your unspoken feelings. And you don't have to give it to a partner. You can if you want to. You can burn it and then you can release it. If you feel like you don't have closure with somebody, but you want to get it out of your system, or that you don't know how they're going to take the letters, you would rather just kind of write it out and heal. And this will help you actually get closer to some of your goals that you have in relationships by releasing some of the heaviness and the weight when it comes to partnership healing and wounds. Good luck, Libra. Let me know what happens. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Venus-Chiron connection in your natal 6th house in the sign of Aries. And similar to Virgo, this is going to be in conjunct or quincunxy by sign, especially if you're like a later degree Scorpio rising. I would say like 20 to 29 degrees. It's going to be harder for you guys to see these aspects. So just kind of hang in there. Obviously, looking for some of the cues can definitely be helpful. But one thing I do know is that Venus does not always fare well in the 6th house. So, likely with the Venus transit, maybe there's been some issues with inter-office relationships. Maybe there's been some health stuff that's come up that you've needed to heal. Maybe you've had to be taking care of a pet. Maybe there has been a lot of needing to air out issues in relationships in your 6th house. And obviously Venus is connected to your committed relationships, one-on-one partnerships, therapists, as well as clients or spouses. And it's also connected to the 12th house of hidden enemies, the subconscious, or things that are hidden. So if there has been any lingering emotional or psychological issues, it can actually manifest physically as problems at work, health issues, issues with, your habits and your routines. So Venus meeting with Chiron in your 6th house is really going to be about addressing your health and your routine. And I think that this is about really reassessing some of your self-care habits. What are you doing? When you're in pain, what are you doing? Are you oversleeping? Are you drinking? Are you drugging? Are you mindlessly watching TV? Are you isolating yourself? Are there some unhealthy habits that are potentially coming up? Remember, all of this is connected to Mars, which is your ruling planet. So with Mars being at the top part of the chart, conjunct the moon, it tells me that you could be experiencing emotional burnout. You're working too much. There's too much stuff going on in the workspace, or there's too much having to be on or being in front of people. And possibly with the trine, it could be really overly amplifying some of the overworking and the impact that it has on you physically, emotionally, or your relationship themes. Now, the positive here is that trines are actually a good aspect. So on the other hand, let's say you have been, going through a healing matter or a health issue and you've been out of work. It could mean you meet with the right practitioner. Maybe it means that you end up kind of going back to work or getting a lot of support from somebody to kind of help you get reacclimated, getting back into the swing of things. So that way you can do your best work in a professional setting. I really feel like it's fueling vitality. It's fueling busyness. It's just watch out for burnout now that you have Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. Watch your habits. And as a self-care tip, I want you guys to start really taking at least 5 to 10 minutes a day for daily movement. Have some kind of practice. Have stretching, dancing, yoga, anything that's going to be about really getting in touch with your body, feeling into that, and making sure that you're taking time to do your self-care, not just immediately getting up and throwing yourself into work. You need to see a healthcare provider, a healer, a specialist, anything like that. Venus and Chiron can bring the perfect person or the perfect vet in to deal with some of your health-related issues. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Venus conjunct Chiron in Aries in your natal 5th house. And obviously this isn't a fellow fire sign. So Sag and Sag risings are going to be experiencing a grand fire trine, especially if you're about 20 to 29 degrees Sagittarius, sun, moon, or rising. Great transit for you guys, even in spite of the conjunction to Chiron. Now, the 5th house is about creativity. It's about children. It's going to be about romance, self-expression, art, and playtime. And Venus is directly connected to your 6th house of work, habits, and routine or pets. It's also connected to your 11th house of friends, associations, allies, and goals. So when Venus meets with Chiron in your fifth house, really what's coming up for you is that it really wants to heal these fifth house topics. It wants to heal blocks revolving around joy. It wants to heal issues revolving around self-expression. It wants to clear any doubt that you have of getting on stage or performing or making art. And I'm loving the fact that it's going to be in a trine to the Mars transit in Leo and the Moon transit as well, because it means that you can take an art class, meet with a teacher, go on a trip, have a romantic kind of fling or an adventure or something that feels like it's going to bring you back online. Maybe you feel like finally, you're getting a break and you can kind of go on a trip or you can kind of have some playtime. That might be part of this. Now, Venus is also going to be about having fun in a healthy manner, though, okay? So it might mean that you're like, well, I'm not eating or I'm not drinking certain things, or I'm having fun in a way that feels like it's going to be structured or organized, obviously with Saturn and Neptune being in your fifth house. This can also mean you end up meeting someone, could be a younger person, could be a romantic partner, could even be interacting with your own children that helps heal some kind of inner child wound or some kind of inner heartbreak that you have been dealing with. You might go somewhere that might also trigger some of these events as well. So it's definitely going to be amplifying travel, education, as well as charisma. And as a self-care tip for my Sag and Sag risings, I really recommend making art, right? Make art, write poetry, express yourself in some way that's going to give you some kind of inner spark. I do think with some of these sextiles that we're seeing to Jupiter, your chart ruler in the house of relationships, that for those of you guys who are partnered, it's like going on a date night that's going to bring kind of the flame back or bring the spice back. It could also be something that can really improve and help kind of structure relationships and really start talking about growth in the future. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Venus conjunct Chiron in the sign of Aries in your natal fourth house. Now, for you guys, obviously, the fourth house is dealing with home, family, property matters, your roommates. It could be your extended relatives, your physical home, your past, right? So when we take all of the planets, including your chart ruler, Saturn there, home and family matters seem to be a really hot topic, pun intended, with Saturn and Neptune and Chiron and Venus and Aries. It can be stuff that's happened in the past, or it can be things that are happening now, and it can be connected to one of your parents. This is about healing family wounds. This is about really looking at some family wounds and some issues that are coming up and really saying, to yourself, am I ready to kind of work through this now? Venus rules your fifth house of children, creativity. It could be when you were a kid that things you're healing through, your own children. It can also be connected to creativity and self-expression as a means of healing. Venus is also connected to the 10th house of responsibility, your public reputation, your career, anything to do with like leadership. So this is about taking the role, I think, of being like, okay, I am going to heal my ancestral patterns, or I am going to be the parent I didn't have, or I'm going to finally, make amends with a female in the family. And Venus Chiron can quite literally be somebody coming in and being around that creates some, conflict or, kind of stirs the pot a little bit. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But the positive of this is that I think with some of the trines that we're going to see to what will be the moon and Mars in Leo in your 8th house is that it promotes some kind of psychological shift. There is going to be something that you're finally ready to kind of cut off or let go or finally like release. Possibly it could add an opportunity to really add some kind of warmth to family ties and kind of bury the hatchet. For others, it can mean that there is like this definitive turning point where you're like, you know what, actually, I'm okay cutting this off or moving away from this or kind of releasing this fear or this trauma revolving around home, family, or even being a parent because Venus is connected to the 5th house of children. Now, as a self-care tip, this is really important because Venus is sextiling Jupiter in your house of health. This may be that you're kind of adding more color to your home. Maybe you're redecorating. Maybe you're deciding that, you need to add a little bit more beauty and organization to your space. It could also mean that this is about just rearranging the house in a way, like creating a cozy corner of your home that feels like safe and nurturing, or somewhere where you're doing your meditation, or, maybe a little crafting corner or something like that, where you feel like okay, part of my responsibility is to make sure that I can kind of, do these things, create art, and like really participate in something that I love, especially if you do it professionally, because Venus is connected to the 10th. But also parenting roles. And for some Capricorn risings, I've seen your guys' comments. It's like, well, I'm moving in and I'm taking care of my mom, or I'm taking care of my sister, or I'm dealing with an estate matter, or, I'm moving my daughter back in. Something like that can be happening. And if you're not seeing the physical rearrangement happening or the physical actions, it's the emotional actions and the things that you're going to be doing. All right. So if you create that whole kind of cozy home environment, it's going to allow you to work through some of that stuff, I think, a little bit easier. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to experience the Venus-Chiron conjunction happening in Aries in your natal 3rd house. All right, so the 3rd house deals with the mind, right? It's also siblings, neighbors, communication, learning, what you're writing, texting, kind of blogging about. So something to keep in mind is that a lot of this can be about healing with the power of words, and whether that's what you tell yourself, what you're posting, what you're sharing with people, what you're talking about, what you're writing. Work with your words, because this is going to be about healing how you express your truth. Now, what's nice about this is that obviously it's in the same sign as Saturn, which is one of your rulerships. It does mean that this is an area where you're already kind of taking this a little bit more seriously, and whether that's learning a language, writing a book, going back to school, whatever, you're committed to it. You're learning to kind of love that process with Venus going through that part of your chart. Now, Venus does deal with higher education, travel, as well as knowledge and your beliefs. It's also connected to home and family matters. So I think that some Aquarius and Aquarius risings are working through some issues where, there's some stuff going on with a family member or relative at a distance. In particular, sisters, cousins, aunts, anything kind of connected also to like neighbors. Whether you're communicating with them, talking to them about what's going on with a family matter, maybe you're wanting to kind of have a heart-to-heart conversation, something like that might potentially appear. But the healing is going to be in your words. Now, what's cool is that this is going to trine the moon and Mars, which will be in Leo at the time of this transit, and it's really amplifying relationships. So whether it's your relationship to a sibling, a neighbor, a kid, a romantic partner, a spouse, through better communication, you can actually work through and heal some of these issues. And you can be a little bit more cool, calm, and collected with Saturn in your 3rd house too. You're learning to listen, not just to speak. So, think of this as the Mars and Moon in Leo is going to really make your words magnetic. You could bring in the right person. You could find a way to be able to kind of update or, fix something on social media, or maybe being authentic and being vulnerable about a topic brings in clients, brings in interest, helps you meet somebody. So as a self-care tip, I would say express your truth for sure. And maybe it would be cool as like a exercise to record your voice. And I would record a voice memo about any authentic ideas or thoughts that kind of come up for you, right? And maybe consider writing about it, posting about it, sharing about it. Maybe even hold on to it and then listen to it and play it back, and listen to it with compassion. Maybe you just need to hear yourself talk through something and kind of work through something. Maybe it's a conversation you have with another person, like a partner or a therapist, that's like, kind of responding to you saying, this is what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct? And you're like, oh, wow, I feel heard. And through that kind of exchange, you feel like you're getting that validation, and it's going to kind of help you work through some of the maybe insecurities that you have potentially had revolving around public speaking or sharing. Good luck, Aquarius. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys will be experiencing Venus conjunct Chiron and Aries in your natal 2nd house. Now, Pisces, the 2nd house is about self-worth. It's about stability, security, money, as well as your possessions. So it is money stuff, but it's more than that. It's how do you feel with what you're making? It's how do you feel about yourself? Do you feel valued? Do you feel good enough, capable enough? And Venus is connected to the 3rd house of communications, contracts, the mind, as well as siblings. And Venus is also connected to the 8th house of other people's money, negotiations, psychological themes, karmic kind of bonds, and intimacy and vulnerability. So the fact that Venus is going to be, occupying the 2nd house while connected to the 3rd and the 8th could mean you're having some, really honest, kind of direct, matter-of-fact conversations about money. This is what I have, this is what I don't have, right? This is what I want to make, and this is where I'm at. This is what I spent, and this is what you owe me. There could be conversations about that stuff. And also, I think the other thing here is it's about working through a scarcity mindset. So what's going to happen is that you're focusing on opening up to healing financial insecurities with Venus conjunct Chiron in your second house. Obviously, lots of support to the Moon Mars in Leo that are going to be taking place in your sixth house of health, habits, and routine. So it's likely if there is some kind of financial challenge, there is going to be a solution or somebody who can help, or there is going to be a new job opportunity or a scheduling change or improving somehow your health and your habits. But it is going to be helping you make some pretty bold financial moves. Fire trines, they do create action. As a self-care tip, I think it would be really beneficial for you to focus on creating a gratitude list of all your current resources to shift that scarcity mindset. Maybe you don't have, the number in the bank that you want. Maybe you don't have the expensive item or the big ticket, house or the job or whatever, but you do have things to be thankful for. And I think Saturn conjunct Neptune, because Neptune is one of your chart rulers, is really kind of highlighting less is more. I can't be afraid of scarcity, like I need to be thinking bigger. I need to be really focusing on what I could have and what is possible, while still kind of tightening the purse strings a little bit. So reality can kind of hit hard with the Venus Chiron conjunction, what you must do, what you have to do, what sacrifices you have to make. But it is going to end up materializing, I think, as feeling better, acting better, being more productive at work. And this also sextiles Jupiter, your traditional ruler, in the fourth house. So I've seen a lot of Pisces and Pisces risings that are like, oh, I have the opportunity to move soon. Okay, I'm downsizing, I'm getting rid of things, I'm selling things, I'm giving things away. But Venus conjunct Chiron might represent there are some things that you're like, this is sacred. This I will not get rid of. This I want to hold on to. And there's fondness, there's memories kind of tied to it. And possibly it's something that's going to make you feel safe as well as secure. So good luck with that transit, my Pisces and Pisces risings. All right, guys. Well, that's what I have for you today on the Venus Chiron conjunction transit. I hope these insights are helpful. I hope the tips are helpful in helping you guys now navigate what can feel like a little bit of like a tricky, more sensitive transit. Definitely drop a like, give me a comment below if you guys feel like sharing, how you're feeling with this transit, maybe what has happened during other Venus Chiron transits for you guys. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please also do like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Click the bell button if you guys want to see more astro videos from me in the future. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. I will be back tomorrow doing my live tarot readings, so join me here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll post the link in my community tab tomorrow morning. If you guys have any questions, especially love-related questions, I think there's going to be a lot of them this week during that live tarot reading, as well as if you want to see more about me and my work, if you'd love to learn astrology, maybe you want a personal astrology calendar, or maybe you want to have a one-on-one session with me, I'd love to work with you. Click the links in my description below and head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, guys, happy healing. I'll catch you guys back here tomorrow on the live, and I hope you enjoy this transit. Take care.